hide the screen. Hey, I'm Christina McDuffie. I'm going to do a presentation on the National Opioid Crisis. I'm part of the MEW BSN RN, and this is the last summer semester, so I'm going to go over my PowerPoint with you, okay? So we're going to talk about the National Opioid Crisis. So pretty much my objectives for you is to kind of realize what's going on in the nation with the opioid crisis and kind of be able to know what an opioid actually is, and also, identify things like maybe a sign and symptom of overdosing, because it's such widely out there right now, and maybe come up with some things you can do in your community to kind of help this problem. So what's an opioid? So it's defined as a group of natural occurring peptides that bind or otherwise influence opioid receptors. So essentially what it does is it binds to a receptor in your brain or spinal cord. It disrupts your pain signals and it decreases your pain level, but it can also kind of provide you some euphoria. So it kind of gives you the feeling of being high. So you can understand why we're kind of having a crisis with this. So a few examples if you don't really know what an opioid is, which I'm sure we do since we all work in the medical field. So morphine, codeine, fentanyl, oxycodone, hydrocodone, hydromorphone, methadone, and Demerol. Also, if you didn't know, heroin is made off of morphine. So it's also considered an opioid. So when we talk about the crisis, we're also talking about like the really heavy drugs like heroin. So there's more examples of opioids, but I mean those are the main ones that we deal with or that we know that people usually take on a daily basis. So after you take an opioid, the signs and symptoms would be like some nausea, drowsiness, you can have slow breathing, constipation, slurred speech, depression, and mood swings. So the side effects aren't that bad. I mean, it's kind of like everything else, but you kind of have like little key factors when it comes to opioids. And some people, they enjoy, how they feel with their pain receptors. I mean, like I said, it's giving you a euphoria, so you're feeling high, and that's just, people start building up tolerance to it, getting dependence to it, and the more we give them, the less it's helping. So, what you need to know about the national opioid crisis. Every day, more than 115 people in the U.S. die from overdosing on opioids, which this has already given us a total economic burden of when we're misusing the prescription opioids, is at $78.5 billion a year. So that's the cost of healthcare, lost productivity, addiction treatment, and criminal justice involvement. So this doesn't just affect the healthcare. I mean, if somebody's abusing it, it can be criminally, people can start selling it, and it adds up more than you think. If we're having to get these people help because they're taking in so much medication, they can't pay for it, we're trying to help them out. So, let's see. So, signs of overdose. Of course, we would know that the patient's not moving, they're not breathing, maybe they're looking cyanotic, you hear gurgling noises, their pupils are dilated, their skin's cold and clammy. If you just know that something's not right, you know to call 911. And this is some of the main stuff we need to start telling the community, because when they start seeing the signs and symptoms of it, they would have less overdose deaths. People would learn to kind of call before it happens, or kind of realize that it's easy to overdose on this stuff. So here's a little statistic. So let's see. 90,000 people died from opioids in the last 3 years, and only 33,000 soldiers died in Vietnam. So that's a little crazy. 2015 opioid death toll was equivalent to more than 447 plane crashing every week. So that's more people than you think. 24 years of age is the average age of the first-time user, younger than the average college graduate. So people are starting this sooner than you've ever thought. I mean, they don't have to be one that are getting a prescription. They can be getting it from her grandma. So what are we doing about it? So the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is focusing its efforts on 5 major priorities. So they want to improve access to the treatment and recovery services. They want to promote the use of overdose reversing drugs like Narcan. They want to strengthen our understanding of the epidemic, and they want to provide support for cutting-edge research on pain and addiction, and advancing better practices for pain management, as in, like, not just having to take pain medicine, like breathing exercises, exercise in general, more natural remedies to where we're not just relying on opioids to make us feel better. So, regulation and funding. In 2013, the cost of medical care and substance abuse treatment for opioid addiction and overdose was an estimated $78.5 billion, which we talked about that earlier. And the 21st Century Cures Act we passed in 2016, it allocated $1 billion over 2 years in opioid crisis grants. And in 2017, the Attorney General announced the launch of a opioid fraud and abuse detection unit within the Department of Justice. So they're helping to weed out what prescriptions are actually going to people who need them and who's actually abusing the system. So how can we help the community? Pretty much teaching the community on opioid addiction and how to prevent it. We can provide resources for rehab, recovery centers in the area. We can always go with our social workers here to provide the patients with anything they need. In our community, we have Pine Grove, we have Clearview, we have so many options, and some people don't even know about it. And then you have little support groups like AA, NA, and as long as we kind of teach these symptoms, you know, the people kind of know what to do with it. Another fun fact is from 1990 to 2015, prescriptions went from being written 181 million a year to 287 million a year. But since we've kind of been seeing that this is a problem, it's went down to like 246 million a year, which is still a high number, but I mean, you can tell we were kind of making a little bit of progress. But that's all my rest of my presentations. Anybody have any questions or anything? Okay, well, thank y'all for letting me to present to y'all, and this was fun.
Thank you.